Hello, everyone, and welcome to your second Snap Take of the day. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Let's get it going with our OTA breakdown. The way we do this is a little different. We just tried it last time and people really responded positively, so we're going to do it again. We're going to not only tell you about the changes, we're going to tell you what tier the card is in before and after the changes, and give you a freaking deck for every single card changed. This way, if you want to try it out, you'll be able to. And you can see right now, we got changes to some big ones. Storm, Daredevil, Electro. Oh my. Let's kick it off with Storm, who was a 3-2 basically since the game began and is now a 4-5. The first thing that we have to talk about, though, is not what this change is, it's what it means. They're changing an early series card in reaction to a Series 4 and Series 5 card, War Machine and Legion. That's not ideal, right? I don't love it when they take free things, like Storm, that they gave us, and then change it based on things that we have to spend money for. That said, though, Storm was becoming obnoxious in the metagame. It was a thing that constantly, like, you had to respect the snaps, and it became just this giant frustration. I understand the change, but this makes it way worse. This was an A tier card. It was pushing S tier at numerous times in the game's history, and it settled as a very solid A tier card. There was almost never a time when there wasn't some kind of Storm deck you could run that would be legit, and now it's not. You can now, however, go straight Storm into Legion. What you can't do is have War Machine between them, which means that no one gets a turn 6. The problem was the incongruity, because if you went Storm, War Machine, Legion, you could play turn 6, the opponent couldn't. They'd have to run basically no matter what. That's not the case now. Now you can go 4-5 into 5-7, which is decent power, and it gives you the first 3 power turns of the game to play all the power you can. But I don't know. Is that worth it? We're gonna have to figure that out. You don't ever really want a War Machine with this unless you can get a Zabu thing going, maybe a Psylocke thing going. We'll worry about that down the line. I don't think that's going to be consistent enough though. Um, this is now a card. This was a card that was in the original Best Surfers and has been in and out of Surfer forever. With Juggernaut, with name of card now escapes me. With Brood, it was in some discard with Dracula. All of those are gone. None of those exist anymore. Sorry. If you can't play it on turn 3, like if you can't buff it in Surfer, it's not worth it, right? If you can't play this into Juggernaut 3 into 4, it's not worth it because you don't want to play this into Sarah or this into cards on Hope. That's not really a thing you want to be doing in Surfer, so that's not great there. You can't play this into Dracula now in discard, so that's dead. They took it out of a ton of lists. They made this card stronger technically, but so much more narrow. It also is no longer really cool with Daredevil, Super Giant, or Arrow combos. I guess Daredevil is sort of okay, but the others are really frustrating. Daredevil, at least you'll still know what's going to be played there, so you can figure out how to beat it or whether you should play elsewhere. So I guess there's some synergy there, but that was kind of over. And like that now it's directly the turn after, so that's nice. Versus Super Giant or Arrow, which are just like kind of not great with this anymore. I think this is going to be a C tier card now. I can see it ending up higher once we figure it out, but this I think is just going to disappear for quite a while. It's sad to see him Storm, the card with the best variants in Marvel Snap, go for a while. One of the coolest characters in Marvel to go for a while, but I think she's going to go. 4 is a really rough cost. Very few decks play a lot of 4 drops, and even those decks that do aren't really locking things down. They're trying to sort of go wide. So Lauren Whatevs just happened to share a really cool Storm deck. This one had Yellow Jacket in, so I threw Zabu in because you want to be able to play Storm on 3. If you can play Storm as a 3/5, you're very, very happy, right? And then you can sort of try and still do all the Stormy things with Negasonic, with Spider-Woman, etc., etc. You should have plenty of ways to still use Storm and take advantage of it. If you can go Iron Lad and still hit a Storm on turn 3 or turn 4, that seems awesome. Symbiote Spider-Man or Nocturne give you ways into that lane. Doom gives you ways into that lane. You still have Eliath. You can White Widow, then play like a Negasonic in the lane, then play Storm, and like they're probably not gonna be able to fill that late in the game after you blew something up. And now that Widow's Kiss is giving you that lane, as you still have your Doom bots and your everything else to win. I don't know. I feel like this is probably a fairly decent list as far as where we're going to go with Storm. Please also check out Lauren Whatevs, especially the oh my god, I'm gonna say this wrong, but I'm pretty sure off the top of my head I listened to it. My brain's not the best memory this late at night. Sorry. I mean early in the afternoon, whatever. Storm is the snap on this pod, I believe, is what it's called. It's amazing. All right, Next up, we have Misery. They told us this was going to happen before Misery got out of spotlights. Misery went from a 4/7 to a 4/8. Um, which is to say, if you're playing against Misery, they want you to have to really commit to the Misery lane to beat Misery, which I think is fine. You have to still put at least 9 power there, which is pretty cool. Because then, like, if you're playing Misery on turn 4, you can still put more power there after that. Seems good. She's always been an A-level card, though. This is one of the most underrated cards in the game. It's the only way to make mill works. It created like 15 new Phoenix Force archetypes. It's still an A-level card. It's still amazing with Sage, still amazing with Cassandra Nova. This is still one of the better and more underrated cards in Marvel Snap. This is an A-level card. Hopefully you got it. If you watched my channel, if this is you're new here, hi, welcome to the channel. Please hit that sub button. I'd really appreciate it. But if you're not new here, um, sorry, if you are new here, every time we review a card, we don't review it once. Most channels just say, here, this card is good, this card is bad after the first couple days. We review it before it comes out, then we review it with a bunch of top creators 2 days after it comes out. If you're curious about Toxin, that's in this morning's video. This is the second video today. And then tomorrow I review stats and give you a statistical outlook when I combine that with the top players' thoughts. And then Sunday or Monday, I give you a last chance review, a last review that says this is good, bad, or otherwise. So Misery was one of the hardest cards to evaluate. I ended up at the end of the week being like, okay, go get this card. What it does is too unique. It's really good. I still think it's really good. I think getting 1 extra power really pushes it over the top. This is an A-level card. This is going to, I would not shock me for the right cards to make this S tier. This is awesome. This is Jeet's Phoenix Force Disco, and this is an example of the kind of thing you get to do if you can run Misery. This list is fundamentally saying, if I can multi-discard Scorn and Swarm, I'm going to town. If I can get a Gwenpool on those swarms, I'm going to town. I can put out so much power. My Collector gets huge. My Morbius gets huge. I can recopy these cards multiple times. I can go Blade into Swordmaster into uh, went into Misery into Phoenix Force and just have 8,000 discards happening all at once, or I can do that with Gwenpool or whatever the case may be, and just get a bajillion plays and win that way. If you want a full breakdown of this list, this was the first list in this morning's video. I'm in love. This is the coolest discard list ever. If you want to play, this is just one of the million ways to play Scorn, and it gets better because now suddenly Scorn has 8 power. Come on. All right, Rockslide was a 4/6, then it became a 4/4, then it became a 3/3, and now it's up to a 4/5. Basically, Rockslide was too good as a 4 when Zabu was out. Now that Zabu is like fundamentally gone, it's too good as a 3. So they moved it back to a 4/5 to basically try and say, when it's a 3, you draw too many damn rocks, right? We don't want you to draw too many rocks. I still think you're going to probably draw too many rocks. I think the Darkhawk package is the reason it's so powerful. The reason that it always remains top notch is because you only draw so many. It's a 12 card deck, right? And if you're drawing rocks even once, you are so far behind the opponent as far as tempo goes in a way that's not really quantifiable in the game, but it's absolutely backbreaking overall when your opponent's drawing power and you're drawing rocks. Um, this was an A tier card. I think it's probably down to a B because 4 cost is kind of clunky. That's the only reason, though. I don't think this is going to be significantly worse. I don't think the deck this goes in is going to be significantly worse. I think this card is one you're going to play a little less. If you're running this and not Black Widow, I think what you ultimately end up doing, unless you're like really relying on Cassandra Nova, is just cutting this card and putting Black Widow in its place, and that should be totally freaking fine. An example of a deck is the Stature Bolt Classic. This deck has been floating around for a while. I don't know who originally made it, but it was running White Widow, and then it doesn't want to run White Widow because White Widow is not very good anymore unless it's specifically built for. So why not throw Zabu in that spot? Because you have Rockslide, Shang, Enchantress, Miles, which is sort of irrelevant, but you have 3 really, really great hits for Rockslide, right? So if you can, for Zabu, so you can throw that in as an extra early play. You can Korg slightly later, slightly less chance to draw it, but whatever. This was already running Black Widow. Maybe the extra awkwardness of the cost curve makes Nocturne be Jeff again, but whatever. This list should be really good. This is extremely powerful. You can throw a Shadow King in somewhere in there, stuff like that. But this is very cool. This list puts out a ton of power while disrupting the opponent and is worth giving some play to. Again, I think it's a little worse with Rockslide as a 4, but then you just add Zabu, and then if like you hit Zabu, now you have a snap condition that makes it way better. All right, they changed Electro from a 3/2 to a 3/3. Whatever. This C plus card may end up being a B minus. I'm not going to pretend that this is some huge change that we super care about. The same decks want it or don't want it. They're just reminding us it exists for Misery, War Machine, and Blink. This actually, in fact, only really matters for War Machine because Misery blows it up and Blink gets it off the board. You almost never want this on the board unless you are playing War Machine, which means that great, the War Machine decks that lost Storm, we can run Electro War Machine decks instead. Great, good for us all, I guess. I don't know. This feels ultimately irrelevant. It'll win an extra game or two here or there, but most of the time, again, this does not end up on the board. So, Bonkerton created this deck a million years ago. Thank you for FaThorNewman for bringing it to my attention. This is still on my game. Whenever I get to play 6 cost missions, I play this. This list is still very good. It's still very powerful. Kyra might want to be Cosmo. There's much more Cosmo targets than there is Shang in the meta right now. But whatever, this list is still quite good and worth playing. Give it a try. You won't be sad you did. War Machine is the way that Electro's change matters here. If you're going Blink, you don't really care. But hey, that's a thing, right? And you can still go like Electro into Cull or into into Cull into 6/6, right? Into Scar into Alive, which is fine. It's not ideal, but and then you'll have one more power than you would otherwise. Again, I don't think this change matters for Electro. It might push him up a tier. I honestly don't think it does. I think he's probably still a C plus level card, tier 3, whatever, however you want to phrase that. Next up, we have Shadow King. Shadow King goes from a 2/2 to a 2/3. Apparently, our anecdotal experience that this is the best tech card in the game, because everyone's been saying for weeks now this is the best tech card in the game, does not match up with second dinner statistics, where this is an underperformer. So he gets an extra power. Great. He doesn't not go in any decks he did before. He doesn't go in any decks he did before, but one of the best cards in the game is now slightly better. I don't care what the stats say. This is an S tier card that they gave +1 to, so it's still an S tier card. Cool. Play Shadow King. You will not be sad to play Shadow King. Shadow King is silly, silly strong. We are going to use this Unity Toxin rank 3 bounce deck as our Shadow King deck for the time being. Shadow King goes amazingly in this list. Yes, he has some anti-synergy with your stuff, but you control where to play him. And if you play him to take away something that's stupidly huge of your opponent while throwing priority, you can still win games fairly easily. I think this card is great. It's in most bounce lists right now. Not all bounce lists. Check this morning's video, but it's in most bounce lists right now as a way to mirror answer. Great list. Check it out. Then we have Klaw. Klaw was a 5/4 ongoing. The location to the right has +8 power. It's losing 1 power. The location right now only has +7 power. This is going to lose some percentage more of games and make people play it less. But hey, it's really hard to play Cull Obsidian, right? And that's a 4/10. It's really hard to play Crossbones, and that's a 4/10. We'll talk about Typhoid Mary in a little bit. Spoiler alert to anyone watching this right away. But all of these things mean that fundamentally 4/11 is a lot of power. The only downside is you can't play this itself in the far right lane. Cool. This is an A tier card. It's maybe an A minus now and still goes in all the exact same decks, including one of, if not the very best decks in Marvel Snap. They say that change is largely for early series, but this is still one of the best cards in the game, and this is still one of the best decks in the game. This is Woody's deck that Cam popularized. If you know who those people are, great. If you don't, welcome to the Marvel Snap community. Woody is one of the best players in the game, and Cam's one of the top content creators. So, they created this list that sort of took the meta by storm. This has a serious argument for being the best deck in all of Marvel Snap. If you don't have speed, please run Juggernaut. But Klaw is in the list, right? Klaw and Mystique is now -2 power, which is significantly worse, but still, like when you're playing it in that circumstance, you're probably going to win because you're doing silly things with it. It's the surprise extra power above Doctor Doom that makes Klaw so good, and Klaw is really, really hard to counter because he represents power across 2 lanes. So which 2 lanes do you have to like compete for when you think your opponent might Claw? And when you're playing around that, how do you also play around Iron Man, etc.? So amazing card. This deck is still amazing. Slightly worse, genuinely slightly worse, but significantly worse? No. All right, we're almost done. We got 2 more cards. Typhoid Mary used to be an ongoing. Your other cards here have -1 power. Now it's only your other cards here have -1 power. That's unbelievably good. I don't know how to explain how unfreaking believably good that is. Um, so the obvious place is just Shuri decks where you don't get anything going. With it on you, you can make this be in a lane alone, copy a Taskmaster, and then you just have 20 power with no downside. That seems amazing. But there's a million, or 22 power, I guess, because you're Aranyaing it. But there's a million other things to do with this, right? That -1 power on all those cards seems really, really, really good to getting out an Ajax. You have a couple cards in that lane. You drop Typhoid. You have a not Ajax. To getting out a high evolution Abomination. You get that. All of a sudden, that's a 3/9. That seems like it's pretty damn good, right? Just with this and two other of your own cards in the lane. Or if your opponent has a bunch of cards and you play a 4/7 swamp thing, man thing on it, you can then drop Typhoid Mary. She's not going to drop her power. She'll drop that man thing to a 4/6, right? But you now have 16 power in that lane while giving your opponent -6 or 8. So they have to overcome like 22 power in that lane to compete. Yeah. There's going to be Shuri things that do man thing now that do Typhoid Mary. It's going to take a little while, but someone's going to break this. This is going to end up being really, really good. I'm completely convinced. This was a D, maybe C minus tier card, and it's an A tier card now. I think this is like an A minus card. Um, there's something here. I'm just saying there's something here. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm excited to screw around with this list from Shuri and Joy, the classic Shuri that runs Aranya. This seems really, really great with Cosmo. This seems really, really great in a lot of ways. I'm really excited to try this. You can still play Zero with it. You can still play Sauron with it and get no downside at all. But the downside is just so much more easily mitigated right now. If you're playing a 10 and you have one other card there, she's now representing 9 power. You're playing a 4/9. Yeah, I'd play a 4/9. Thank you. This card is going to be great. And now, what I think is honest to God the biggest change. Straight up, I think this is the biggest change. I saved it for the end. Daredevil goes from a 2/2 to a 2/3. We've been seeing some really powerful Daredevil lists. We're going to look at one in a minute. Daredevil is coming back in the meta because turn 5 has become the pivotal turn for Marvel Snap. It's the turn where bounce decks do their bounce, right? It's the turn where either the Ajax or Hazmat thing happens. It's the turn that first Iron Man happens. And if you control that turn, you control the game. So Daredevil has been coming back in a huge way. When the card of the day was Sarah or Annihilus, that wasn't the case. But now we're seeing some absolute insanity from Daredevil where he's taking over the game. There's just enough things to do on turn 5 with priority that you can counter basically everything. This kind of was like a B plus tier, and I think it's an A tier card, and it might end up being an S tier card. When you can do this with priority, the entire meta falls apart. I would not be shocked to see this get nerfed relatively soon because this seems insane. So this is Dragono's counterplay deck. He's climbing within the top 100 of the Infinite Leaderboard with it. Basically, you get Daredevil down, right? And then you have priority if you can get priority. There's another list we looked at this morning from Revis that does the same basic thing with some higher power cards. But you get Daredevil down, right? And then they play something, and you can, before, if you have priority, you could just drop a Negasonic there. You can drop a Juggernaut there. You can drop a Cosmo there. You can drop a Shadow King there. There's you can drop a Red Guardian if it's an ongoing thing. This deck doesn't run Rogue. It cut Rogue for Shadow King, but that used to be Rogue. If you want a cheaper card, you can fit an Echo in that slot. It's a ton to like about this list. Try it out. It counters everything. So I featured this deck 2 days ago, 3 days ago, whatever it is, and then I went on ladder with my cool new Toxin decks, all happy, and I got eaten alive. Just eaten alive. There was nothing I could do. This deck is insanely good into the meta right now. It handles almost everything, and Daredevil is such a huge part at why you get such great snap equity. I'm telling you, go back to Daredevil and just be like, oh, this made the game easy. Cool. All right, that's it for this OTA, which I think didn't do a ton outside of the storm change, which is huge. I think almost everything else here is just tweaking, but I do think that we're going to start to enter a Daredevil meta, and I think there is something for Typhoid Mary. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. I'm going to say thank you to these patrons and then get out of here because I got to make another video. We're going to do 10 freaking deck reviews tomorrow morning, so I got to get ready for that. So I will see you tomorrow. But first, thank you to Abigail Geeson, Mandatory Burnout, It Regardless, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, Inc., I Am Frostman, Jay Neverett, Corwin, Primed Ryan, Ryan Burke, Woody, Ryan Wood, Caretixley, Koire, Black Dahlia, Pyrofros, The Goat Seeker, Den Man Falcon, Archangel 3K, Hollowed, Quid Pro Joe, Doc D, The Kingdom Marvel Snap Card Content, Fat Nick, Mr. Kerfuffle, Ginge Prime, hey Ginge, Philip Ratkovich, hey Ratko, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, Black Jeebus, our new friend, hello, X-Force V, and Skippy G, hey Skippy, Tommy Nyquist, hey Tommy, the King of Bros, bro, the Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, hey Jess, we just said Woody, hi Woody again, Kelsey Hoda, Ludacris, John Q, Jimmy McHugh, I'm moving Corwin into your town soon, Clam, oh look, I can move Woody over to the Ryans, and then I can move Corwin over to here. Yeah, we're doing it. All right. Clam, 8 Sage, Mod Supreme, Models, Green, Goblin. Hey, Goblin, thanks for joining. Steven, Brian H. Brian Kaufman. Ooh, Brian H. You got an H, Brian. Tristan H. Martin, G. Sun B. The Fuzzy Dunlop. Spectrumix, Hoot. Matt H. DJ Mike Hijinks, NoFlex, Ocularis, Craig Sterry, BG, the King of Canada, Jonesy, Two Ties, the great Laura Devs, the Parking Tucker, the Homie Min, and of course Gunny T. Let's go back for a moment before we go forward. The King of Canada is probably around now, streaming on Twitch, featuring this morning's decks. Go check that out. And if he checks out this video, he can feature some of these decks too, if he's so inclined. You can bug him for it. Thanks for watching. The sub button is right below me. Like literally, there's a button right. If you click it, it subs. And next to me is a cool Pokemon Pocket video. We have a channel for that. It's a smaller channel, but it's fun. I've won a tournament. And then we have this morning's video in the other spot if you want to check that out too. See you tomorrow for 10 full deck guides, including an exclusive top 5 deck. Peace.